We're on our own today. The girls are in Ottawa right now, so again, we're doing all this tech stuff there ourselves. So again, myself and Yusan and Samantha there, so we'll figure it out from there. We're not watching it on Facebook, so I can't tell you if you can hear me or not, but I see some people here right now. If they can just acknowledge that you can hear me okay, and then make sure the sound's all right. How do we do that? Well, sometimes you ask questions you already know the answer to, right? So where's everybody today?
Ottawa.
People at convention, people in Ottawa. I think there's about 15 people there or so. 1-5. Yeah, yeah. And I think overall there might be, I don't know, 1,700 people there. So it's good people. I know that the girls took the Via train there, and there's a new Via train right now. They got new cars or something there. It almost looks like an airplane, or actually better than an airplane, because it's got the seats or the little armrest between the seats, everything else, right? So that's a good way to go to Ottawa or Montreal for that matter. Oh, downtown Ottawa, yeah. Yeah, I think so. Do you know Ottawa at all, or sold houses in Ottawa? All right, so folks here, so always better to have a two-way conversation there, makes things a little bit easier. So somebody tell me what's going on with the market out there. Anybody, is it busy, not busy? It feels slow for somebody? I'm sorry? Really? Okay. Anybody else? Nothing going on?
Same agent.
I've got a struggle on Brampton. Super slow.
Super slow, yeah. Yeah. Things aren't as bad. These are bad jokes. I got old bad Percy jokes, right? Right? They had this bell there, and they had this celebration there. Who earned the most amount of money there during that particular month when times were tough? And secretaries won every time. Right? Happens all the time. What else, Nelson? Busy weekend?
I'm not sure if you check the broker base stats or anything, but 250, yeah, seen that.
250 in appointments, okay.
257, so
That's good, all right. Offers and that, offers were so-so?
yeah, it's still in the offers.
A little bit softer in the offers.
Of course, in 3 days.
Right. Did anybody here do open houses on the weekend? Anybody here in the office? No? I got an email from somebody who did an open house out in I guess Durham there, and they said they had like 10 people one day and 5 people the next day. So that's sort of encouraging. Michael, you put up your hand. Did you get some open house stuff, or is that the one on Brock Road, or where was it? Nice. That's the whole purpose, isn't it? 3 buyers, yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna talk about first-time home buyers, but do you guys have a first-time home buyers kit? I'm just curious, like if somebody came to you in an open house saying I'm a first-time home buyer, do you have a list of all the benefits that first-time home buyers can take advantage of?
Good idea.
Does anybody have a list of all the different things that are available? So somebody walks into, first-time buyer and they say, oh, did you know this? Did you know that? Maybe you might want to do, or better still, if you're doing Instagram or you're doing Facebook, or you're doing stuff in there, you want to sort of have a topic to talk about. You could talk about one thing a week. You could go on for about 4 weeks and talk about what's available for first time buyers and never repeat it for for about 8 weeks. All right. So it's good thing to know what's going on with the first time buyers. Did anybody have any input about interest rates and stuff that were going on in the market? Did anybody, like, did your public, anybody do any social events, and your clients are talking about the changes? Did that happen?
Yep.
So you had social, like in the social event outside real estate, people are saying, oh, what's going on, or they just, did they understand what's going on?
They don't understand. They ask questions and what's going on. They're still waiting for. People read things on social media that next time it might be conflict.
Right, okay, so the reason why the purpose of these meetings, just so you know, the purpose of these meetings here is so that we can introduce you stuff that you can talk about during social things, right? So you want to be on top of it, right? So if somebody at a social meeting says, oh, I hear something happened with the 30-year amortized mortgage, do you know what happened? Can you explain to them what happened? Do you know what happened, right? These are things and that you can talk about. I mean, and you show your skill and show your worth, right? So those are things you have to be doing. For instance, in the States dropped their interest rates by 50 basis points last week. That's good news or bad news. Why would somebody drop interest rates by 50 basis points? Because the economy's not doing as good as they thought. So it's a double-edged sword. But in our world here, a lot of people are more worried about what's happening in their backyard than they are in the world. So they want to know what's going to cost for their house, and that's it. So I think that happens in a lot of cases. In the States, they're saying here that some guy down there, I think it was JP Morgan, has a mortgage down there of 4.81. That seems like very cheap in the States. Generally about 2% above ours, so it'd be about 6.2 would be an average. And they said also that there's about 6.2% average as well. In Canada, the best rate right now would be a 3.99, according to Chris Leader here. So 3.99, that's got to be variable, right?
3.799.
So it's 3-year fixed, 3.79.
Yeah,
Fixed?
3.79 3 years.
Wow.
Scotia,
Scotiabank, yeah, okay.
with 3,500 cash.
With cashback as well, $3,500 cashback, okay. All right. So there's things out there, there's,
That's a good rate.
it's a good rate, yeah. It's a very good rate. Why cashback?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the standard, I think 3,000.
I don't know.
Standard policy, if you, depending on the mortgage, my bank's mortgage was 900 first.
900,000? Mortgage?
Mortgage.
Nice.
Yeah, yearly,
And
yearly income 300.
you got $3,000 back? Wow. Now it puts everything in perspective now, right?
Well, you can buy one laptop and calculate his mortgage.
I have somebody in the back there that just, we're talking about a 3.79% 3-year mortgage for Scotiabank and a $3,500 cash back. And I got somebody else saying here, I just did renewed mine, I never got that, but chances are you never took a $900,000 mortgage. Right, so everything's relative, right? And also banks as they get in each quarter, sometimes banks have more money left over that they have to get out. They have to get out in the field, so they'll have a special. They'll have a deal going on there just to get the money out for that quarter. So there could be something like that too. You just didn't get caught in the right quarter. Anybody do Rich Robbins last week? Anybody here? Rich Robbins? Can anybody tell me? I didn't go myself. Sue, what you think of it? Was it a good show? Good for you. Okay, so you're a Mike Ferry guy, so now you're thinking what? Canada, Canadian, okay. Good for you. Yeah, that's nice. Glad to hear. Anybody else? So what did you learn at the session though? For those people that didn't go, was it worthwhile?
Yeah.
Because there's another one coming up, I think, in the West End, right? In next month? In Burlington, yeah. So did you learn anything? What'd you learn?
Bill was there, even Daniel was there.
Okay, good. And he's a Mike Ferry guy or is he? No, he's a Rich Robbins guy. Yeah. He's a part coach there. So. Anyway, so usually what Rich Robbins does, he'll tell you some things that's going on in the marketplace. He'll give you some stats on the market, and then he's going to try to sell his day and a half or 2-day event. And he also tries to get you signed up for coaching, which is okay. I mean, it's all good things. And the way that Mike Ferry's the old school, get on the phone, but it gets harder and harder now with no phone numbers. It gets harder now with the do not call list and things like that. So you have to be able to get into social media or farming or past client database, all those types of things. So you have to find some way to get out there and get going, right? So whatever it is, that's what it does. Chris today talked about the 15 things that make a difference, or 15 things that top producers would do. I'm not going to touch on all 15, but the number 1 was a good idea, or number 15, I guess, in his list. As a real estate agent, you should be investors, right? I said this a couple of weeks ago, where a client will come to you, let's say power sale, the client will come to you and say, I want you to find me the great deal. When you find a great deal, let me know. Right? You find something that's, $100,000 less than the price, or some type of cheap place, let me know and I'll buy it. And the answer would have been, well, you're going to be the second person to know because I'm going to be the first. Right? And the idea is in real estate, if you want to be rich and you're in real estate, why not have a goal to buy an investment property once every couple of years, every 5 years, make that a purposeful goal, not just a half chance thing, but make it part of your things that you're doing. Being generous, which is good. This goes back to karma, right? So being generous, if you're generous, then things come back to you in the karma way. Be driven at what you're going to do. So driven just means don't be distracted. You've got something to do that day, you're going to do it. And that's you're driven to do those types of things. Chameleons are good. I get that fun. Chameleon would be like, you're trying to express your opinion on somebody else and who cares? Right? I mean, you're trying to sell houses. If the guy thinks that blue thing is black, then I guess it's black, right? So you're trying to sell things. You're gonna be a chameleon. You can't be, you gotta be able to adjust to all the different people. Resourceful, finding new ways. I just talked about, if phone calling is what you did and you can't get phone calls anymore, then you have to be resourceful. What else can you do? Can you door knock? Sure. Farm, as we talked about, open houses, door knocking, there's different ways of doing business here. You just have to be resourceful, be able to find it. There's also the social media side, but if you're not that social media, then you're not, right? Intuition, read between the lines, what people are not saying, you've got to pay attention to that. Being competitive, routines are important. I think routines are very, very important. You have to have a routine. You have to know what you're doing every morning. So whatever it is, and it works, and once you find something that works, you do it again. Discipline goes along with routines. You want to be hungry. Mike Ferry would always say that you take your total personal expenses, $10,000. Take your total income outside of real estate. Could be pension, could be a spouse, could be annuities or some kind of investment, right? Whatever that is. So you take your 10,000 and divide it by how much money that comes in automatically, not through you, but through your spouse. And the difference would be a direct correlation to your motivation in real estate. So if your overhead's $10,000 and your spouse is bringing in $20,000, chances are you're not going to be driven to get out of bed every day to have somebody beat you up. Right? But if your overhead is $10,000 and your outside income is zero, then you're going to be motivated to go out there every time. So somehow, if you're in a situation where you don't need to work, then you have to find something else to be competitive, routines, so you have to find something else to overcome that challenge. It's not a bad challenge to have, but you have to overcome it. Hungry, true grit, rainmaker, confidence. I talk about confidence. Sometimes there's confidence. People sometimes mistake confidence with arrogance. You know what I'm talking about? You get somebody you think, oh, the guy's arrogant. He's not arrogant, he's just self-confident, not arrogant. But anyways, that's it. So good news. Mortgage and real estate industry hit the jackpot last week. Mortgage and real estate industry in Canada hit the jackpot this week with a trio of announcements. Good news comes in threes. I always thought it was bad news, but anyways, good news comes in threes, right? First, Ottawa announced the bombshell loosening of the mortgage insurance rules. Second, the inflation stunned economists. Third, the federal government dropped their rates as well. So that's bang, bang, bang. So it's all positive things. What did they do? The mortgage insurance, they had a 50% increase in the maximum allowable value, so 1.5% versus $1 million for a high ratio mortgage. Now there's a formula. When it was $1 million, hopefully Nelson, you can remember this. There's 5% down on the first 500,000, and it was 10% down on the next $500,000 to have a high ratio mortgage for $1 million, right? What is the rule for the 1.5?
My understanding is 10% after the first 5. So
So it's the same thing then. All right, so somebody told me it was an average 10%. Can't be an average 10% if you start off with 5. So, okay, so it's the same rule. So it'd be 5% on the first 500,000, 10% on the next $1 million.
so
December 15th is the effective date. So the effective date would be I assume closing. All right. So that's important. So they talked about that, right? The 30-year amortization. They had the 30-year amortization for first-time buyers of brand new houses, which at the time made no sense because all the builders wanted 20% down or 50% down anyway. So it wouldn't be a high ratio mortgage anyway. So now they've extended that to 30-year amortized mortgage for both resale and new houses for first-time buyers. So going back to that list I'm talking about, you have a list of all the benefits that are available for first-time buyers, right? This is one here. You now qualify for a 30-year amortization mortgage, which means that you could be able to, rather than affording, $500,000 mortgage, now you can afford a $570,000 mortgage, however that number works out. So that's an encouraging thing, right? So you want to throw that out in Instagram or post or something. Yeah, 30 years amortization for all buyers. The second measure creates a more liquid pool of buyers for new homes and sensitize the construction of Canada. So that's what the construction of new homes, and I'll talk about that. They're in desperate shape right now. So the 30-year amortization will help them out a little bit, hopefully. Yeah, so that's a good thing. That's what we're talking about there. Let's just stick that to a minute there. So the government announces the boldest mortgage reform in decades to unlock home ownership for more Canadians. So they're talking about the $1 million, the $1.5 million, 30-year amortization for all first-time buyers for any properties. And we also have just to give you a bit of a list of what's available to first-time buyers. Do you guys remember the tax-free first home savings account? You guys recall what that was? Do you want to remind me? This is a test. What is the tax-free first home
First time
savings
homebuyer
account?
plan.
It's first time buyers. Correct.
Money pulling out of your savings.
This, by the way, is the best program they ever came up with. Right? Okay, enough. Okay, that's why we come to these classes, right?
4 times.
First time buyers can put away $8,000 per year. That $8,000 per year, they can deduct it from their income tax. That $8,000 for a maximum of up to $40,000. So now they could take that $8,000 per year, 40,000 or maximum lifetime, and knock it off their income, just like an RSP.
I
But
think BMO was advertising that and
well, this is the federal program, right? So it's $8,000 per year, and they can write it off your income. So they save an income tax. And the best part, they can invest that money into the stock market or however they want to invest it, and whatever income it increases is tax free. And when they take the money out, the $40,000, it could be, I don't know, $80,000 by the time they take it out. They take that money out. Guess what? That's tax free. This is by far the best program. It's not very much, but it's $40,000 better than a kick in the pants, right?
First time home buyer.
First time home buyers. Huh?
That's the name of the plan?
It's called the tax-free first home savings account. The other one they have is the enhanced home buyers plan. What the home buyers plan is that you take after tax dollars. Sorry. You invest into your RSP. So same thing, RSP, so your income reduces from the money you contribute to the RSP, and the RSP will generate income as it gets invested. But as like another RSP, when you take it out, you have to pay taxes on it. Different from the first time home buyers, but this one you do pay taxes on. But what you can do, you can actually borrow from yourself up to $60,000. So you can have, it used to be 35, now it's $60,000 each. You can take out of your RSPs to buy in a first time home. 15.
You see RESP?
RRSP. So an RRSP program is $60,000 now. And if you have a spouse or husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, or girlfriend, whatever, $60,000 each. That has to be
that
paid.
came up from 35,000.
Correct, and it has to be paid back over 15 years. If you don't pay it back, just, if you don't pay it back, they put 1/15 on your income.
Do you still get the 3 years grace?
I don't know what that is.
Used to be 15 years, but 3 years grace.
Probably, yeah,
15
it's
years.
probably a fiscal year or something there, so that's a good thing, right? Just adding to the list. What else do we have for first time buyers? Oh, big test. Thank you. Land transfer tax rebate for both Toronto and for Ontario. Right, so your Ontario was, I think, $4,000 maximum rebate, and Toronto was $44.75 maximum rebate. So now you got land transfer rebate, right? What else do you have for first time buyers? Hmm? Sorry? No. Close. Well, we got, well, no, you got the 30-year. That's the 30-year, yes, yes. No, just for buying houses. All right, you've got the first time home buyer's tax credit to offset the costs of your moving fees and your lawyer fees and your realty fees if you haven't, well, what are your realty fees if you're buying? And that's maximum up to $1,500. Not much. So if you said to a buyer, I'll show you how to get $1,500 savings, and then the next agent doesn't say anything about that, you don't think that's enough to sway them over to you? So, and if you're doing a buyer's presentation, by the way, this is the types of things you're gonna talk about, right? So, there we go. Now there's always the frick and always the frack, right? Always the left, always the right. So I can't believe it.
Buy the house, like you already bought the house, but if you don't buy the house, in 5 years or maybe more than 5 years, you consider to be a first time buyer?
Okay, so there's two parts. So if you're using your RSPs, you have not owned a home in 5 years, you can requalify as a first-time homebuyer. Land transfer tax? No. Once you've bought a house anywhere in the world, you will not get that back. So you can requalify yourself in RSP, but the other stuff, no. No, cannot have owned a home. If you haven't owned a home in 5 years, you requalify as a first-time buyer for RSP.
Next credit, you just mentioned the first.
The land transfer tax credit, no, get that once.
First thing is that. The account for
All the other
the
benefits.
40,000, you said?
The $60,000 RSP contribution?
Home savings plan.
8,000. Yeah, 8,000.
First-time buyer. Oh, you're talking about the very first one there. First-time buyer, I don't know if you have to requalify for that. Usually the federally have to requalify. Sorry, you can requalify, and it's provincial that you can't. So I would think you probably can requalify for the tax, for the first time. After 5 years, I'm thinking it'll be the same.
For both federal and.
No, for the $8,000 per year and the RSP. If you haven't owned a home for 5 years, then they consider you a first-time buyer again. All right. So the naysayers here we go. So this is the new 30-year mortgage, which is, I think, a good idea for first-time buyers and whatever else. But here's the problem that they're worried about. They're worried because there's going to be so many first-time buyers that now qualify. That means it's going to jack the prices up. So whatever advantage they got for a 30-year amortization is going to be eaten up by the increase in prices. That's what they're saying. What do I say? I say no. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the buyers today, because there's more choice, they're not going to give what the sellers want.
The 30 amortization is also non-first time, right? Or is it?
No, first time, exclusively first-time buyers for resale now as well as new. All right. Everybody okay? 30-year for first-time buyer for resale and brand new. That's the new rule. They changed it again last week. They announced that. But it's first-time buyers, right?
That's the CMHC last year.
CMHC,
The 50% increase in insured mortgage.
correct. That's for everybody.
Yeah. If it's into 25 years amortized. So now everything-
Everybody's owned a house before. And what they'll also do on a renewal, the federal government has given the banks the ability on renewals to change the amortization. So some people here have variable rate mortgage, and rather than increasing the rate, they actually extended the amortization period to some cases 80, 90 years. Yeah, yeah. Anybody here, anybody know that? Anybody know the clients that like they have like a 80, 90-year-old amortization?
80 year.
80 years. Yeah, so basically you're not paying anything off your principal. And just so you know, there's another, if I don't want to forget it, in here, somewhere here is also that they came with another rule. There's another rule now, which is a good rule, and it kind of got snuck in there, buried it. If you've got a client that's renewing and they want to change lenders, we were telling everybody you couldn't change lenders because you had to qualify with the stress test.
Yeah.
Government changed that and said if you have an existing mortgage and you're going to try to shop that existing mortgage, renew, like do it with another builder, the stress test does not apply. And that was buried in there somewhere that I read. That's probably more important than anything else, because basically put you over the barrel, right? You got to renew with us, otherwise you got to qualify for the stress test if you move your mortgage somewhere else.
Do trust companies do that stress test?
Trust company do not.
And it's still +2%?
Yes. Yeah, and somebody said to me they changed the +2 to something else. They did not.
So only new home buyers have to be approved with a stress test, basically.
Correct.
So the benefit would be to go with a trust company as opposed to a bank.
Or a trust company, but you're gonna pay 2% more interest anyway, so.
For everybody, like it's even renewing your mortgage, you have to.
If you renewed your mortgage with the same lender, no, you did not. And if you renewed the mortgage with a new lender, yes, you had to. But now they're saying you don't have to have the stress test if you want to move that mortgage somewhere else. Okay, so that's important, right? All mortgages are subject to qualifying criteria, stress test, determine whether it's checked with your TD. Okay. There's still the prohibition. People ask this question. There's still a prohibition on non-residents buying Canadian property. It's against the law. And they extended it to 2027. And even if they did not extend it, the Ontario government will add 25% surtax to a non-resident buying Ontario property.
If they are non-resident and they become a resident, is that rebatable?
Could be. Yeah, could be. If it's certain time frames.
They can buy the multi-unit or commercial.
Yes. Yeah, that doesn't stop it. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good. Okay, so that's interesting. Mortgage rules will change. Mortgage rule changes will help spark demand, but supply challenges persist. So they're still going on that supply is being a big problem. It probably is.
Is that stress test apply only to renewals, or like what if somebody's refinancing? It's only renewals.
As far as I know.
Well, stress test, what the mortgage applies, to renew that the mortgage is different bank.
So you know what I did, just so if you guys are trying to think, well, where do I get a list of all the things that are available for first time buyers and what do I do? I've been using this stupid thing called ChatGPT, which is an American, trust me, it's an American program, but I went into it last night and I said, do you know anything about first time buyer tax credits in Ontario? He says, yes, I do. I said, okay, can you list me all the benefits for a first time buyer in Ontario? And he said, yes, I can. Well, there it was. Just take that, put it on your letterhead. There's your list.
It wasn't Ontario, California.
No, no. ChatGPT is nuts, man. If you guys, it's like I ask bizarre things. I'll say, okay, investments. Let's say you got $10,000. Do I invest it in this or invest it in that? And it'll tell you the reasons why and what to do and how to do and everything. It's quite something. Good news. Okay. Toronto new home sales hit historic low in August, painting a stark picture of a struggling market. So they're saying here that the sales of new construction homes were 73% below the 10-year average. In August, they sold 464 homes, down from 46% from August last year, 73% from 10-year average. They're getting more inventory. The problem is that the cost to build is just too high. And the government taxes. So on average, they're saying that the government taxes and fees on average add $355,000 cost to a single family resident home. So that's quite, that represents like 30% of the cost of a new home is government fees and on all those things. So they're saying they need to be addressing that as well as everything else. A couple of off things here. So realtor.ca, I don't know if you paid attention or not, but down in the States, I don't fully understand what's going on in the States, but I know that They have Realtor.com down there, which is a private company. As far as I know, or is it owned by NAR, National Association of Realtors? Anyways, they're not right across Canada. And Realtor.ca, we're right from Newfoundland to BC. We have all the inventory. The state's not, it's not the same big thing here. So
It's the same website?
no, it's completely different. They just have the same. But what's happening here is that there's Realtor.ca is owned by us, who's owned by Korea. And what they're thinking was that they don't have enough resources, they don't have enough man hours or time to make the web page better. I think it's already better, but for instance, Realtor.ca, if they ever put sold stats on Realtor.ca, they'd wipe out House Sigma. Or if they put in a estimate on Realtor.ca, they'd wipe out Zolo or House Sigma, or all these guys. It would just overnight they'd be gone. So what they're trying to do here instead is they want to make Realtor.ca a taxable equity. So they want to privatize it. They want to generate more money by and be able to invest it into more technology, into more services that we can provide. And the way they can generate more money is either increase your fees or make it a private company, a for-profit company. For-profit company, for instance, if a lawyer or a bank or a moving company wants to advertise on Realtor.ca, they can, but they're going to pay for it. I'm also assuming that if Frank Leo decides that he's got enough money to maybe advertise on Realtor.ca, he can probably do that too. I can see that's be a downside. But they want to get more money and they're asking you for your input. So this time next year, if you find out that Realtor.ca has gone private and now to have your listing show up for some reason, it's going to cost you some money. You have the option now to vote or look at it or pay attention to it. Don't. This is right. So I'm telling you now that in a year from now, if you're complaining that Realtor.ca has gone private and how come Frank Leo shows up on my listing on Realtor.ca, these are things that are going on. So if you have a problem with that, then you need to put your hand in now, read the stuff, fill out the surveys, and tell them what your thoughts are. But I'm thinking it will go private.
Already they have decided.
We own it, by the way. So the idea is that your dues that you're paying to Korea should go back to zero if they're selling stuff. So there has to be some advantage for us. Just like PropTex on Toronto Real Estate Board. Toronto Real Estate Board owns PropTex, who now runs the database for all these other boards around Toronto, but where's the money going? Right? I don't know. So that'll be coming down the tube. Anybody gets bored tonight at 11 o'clock or so, they can watch Pierre Trudeau on TV. Tonight he's going to be interviewed on an American talk show, Stephen Colbert.
Oh, Jeff,
Pierre Trudeau?
No, Justin.
Pierre, okay.
Sorry, Pierre. Justin saying that. You guys even old enough to know who Pierre is?
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau is going to be on this Stephen Colbert show. I don't know. Is that like a night show, 11:30 or something? It's a late night.
that's American.
Yeah.
He's American, but because yeah, he's down there for some United Nations thing, so that's why they're doing.
Given our enough of our country away to them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't
He
know.
wouldn't know how to.
So this agent here is from BC. I thought this was pretty good. This is for Shanaz. Agent says this is from BC, right? Vancouver. He sold a condominium. Agents say that the buyer's market means condos need to be priced right. In the market in Vancouver, the agents telling the sellers to make sure that you price the condos right. That's the same problem we have here. Right? We have listings here. Who's got condos right now that haven't been selling? And how many times you convince the seller to reduce the price and they won't do it, or still not enough? No,
We reduce, but
still not enough, man. I think that's the idea. This poor woman here, and we talked about a couple weeks ago about you guys and Landlord and Tenant Act and being a lawyer, paralegal, so on and so forth. I gotta tell you again, be careful. There's a woman here that's it's a homeless landlord. She's still homeless, even though the tenant got an order from the tribunal to vacate the property. They still wouldn't leave. So, no, just the,
So the sheriff can't get a vote?
Sheriff can kick him out, but the court said, you gotta be out by this date. Here's how the program works. You gotta be out by this date. We're out by this date. So what do they have to do? They have to go now to the sheriff and say, I have this legal right to kick them out. Now the sheriff's gonna have to kick them out, but
No, I thought they were.
But the sheriff's not gonna do it right away, so that the whole ball starts again, cause they don't know they broke the law until the day they didn't move out. So you can't phone the sheriff before they don't move out, cause you don't know whether they broke the law or not,
So if a tenant signs a document stating that they will move out on this particular date.
or court order,
So if they sign a document, though, they are committed.
they're committed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can't make them do it,
No, but you can ask them to do it.
but you could get the sheriff, huh? You have to bring the sheriff. What they tell the client, what the sheriff tells the client, look, we're gonna go to the house at 10 o'clock. We're gonna give the tenant notice, hey, we're coming at 10 o'clock. You better be gone. If you're not gone, we're gonna make sure you're gone. They tell the landlord to meet us there with a locksmith to change the locks while the sheriff's there.
Done that a few times.
Yeah, listen, I had a situation. Where. That the sheriff was coming to change the lock. And the guy who was the tenant was a locksmith.
You remember the one I called?
They showed up. And I told the guy, go ahead and change the lock. And I called the police. The police, they came. Expedition. Sheriff is there, change the lock on the door. I showed them off the paper. And I told the guy, I said, listen, the next lock you're gonna pick, you go in there and you try to get in there. You want from the jail cell. He said, "You don't want to believe it." And they showed up and I let the guy go in and take some stuff out. And then we changed the lock and that was being done.
Yeah. Thanks.
You remember the
So what you hear is just folks at home, somebody saying how we do have an order. We did have the sheriff come in to change the locks, but the tenant was a locksmith and he just changed the locks back, so. So now the police are involved, so.
You remember the listing I had in Nelson 3.5 years ago where they changed the lock and the guy kept breaking in 3 times.
I don't know. I've had wacky things there. The stock market's doing well. I checked again, the stock market on Friday. Went up again. So that's gotta be healthy. I mean, the interest rates are going down, the stock market's going up. That's all positive news. It's gotta be positive for our clients too. And it's gone up like 14%. It's not a little bit, it's gone up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. See if I can remember this here. I gotta just tales from the street.
You talked about this member hub thing, is that anything?
Member hub is something to start this week. I think it's for the applications. They're not gonna take paper applications anymore. You gotta do it through the hub. So anytime that Ginny does something to hire somebody or take somebody off, it's done through the hub and that. So it's more at the broker level, I think.
You gotta be everything over there. You gotta order everything over there. You're gonna go for stores, top store, you're gonna go over there. For all those things.
Not physically.
Why?
I mean, we go to the prep store anyway, so.
No, you could do that or order right online.
Oh, you can-
But if that's the one space that you're gonna go and get everything just.
So I wrote some notes down there that I want to talk about, but the agent's here anyway, so. If I got it wrong, the agent will correct me, so. You know what I'm talking about? I made notes of it, but I didn't, must be downstairs. I kept it. Yeah, I don't have it. Okay, so I'll just go from memory here. So I have a client who, start me off there, remind me.
Had a client who put an offer in a house, we lost it, somebody else. So I started watching to see when it was gonna close, and the closing date kept moving.
All right, so let me just catch up with the folks at home. So the folks at home, so we put an offer on our property, we lost, but we kept an eye on the property just because the guy still liked it, right?
Yeah, closing date kept changing, kept showing up.
And closing date kept on changing.
So finally, I went away, and I came back and there was a new agent's name on the listing.
So listing expired and then even though it was sold and the extension date was closed, all of a sudden there's a new, yeah, that's right.
Couldn't get their house sold. Long story short, so I called the agent, he goes, well, the other guy kept extending dates and people couldn't have the house. So I tried to contact my client if he wants to come back in. And then the next day, let's see, his listing is canceled. It's like going to myself, what's going on?
The second listing was canceled?
What's going on? It's a different agent that originally sold out. He goes, oh, they changed their mind. They sold their house. They're coming in with the finance. So the question is, who gets the money on that? The guy, the second guy or the original guy who sold the house? Close.
The original guy.
So let me just recap there for the folks at home there. So we had a buyer that lost on a property. Someone else got the property, but the closing date kept on changing, and all of a sudden now a new listing came up with the same property. Different agent. So then we approached that person. No, we didn't approach, we talked to them, and then they all of a sudden they canceled that listing, and they found out that the first buyer bought it from the first guy. That deal funding came through. So the question is, who gets paid? So I have a bigger, there's a bigger problem here. Okay, so just for everybody at home. So you have a listing, right, and you sell it conditional. Pay attention to the expiry date on your listing. So if you, let's say you've got, what's the date today, the 23rd? Let's say you've got, your listing expires on September the 30th. You sold it conditional upon something or other till October the 5th. Guess what? September 30th, your listing expires, and October the 5th, guy doesn't firm up, you got nothing. Or in this case, September 30th, it terminated. The sale is October the 5th, but the guy relisted with somebody else on October the 1st. Which they could perfectly do. So pay attention to expiry dates on your listing. You know, you sold it, watch it that it doesn't go past your expiry date and extend the listing.
I always have the expiry date after the closing.
But you don't know, you don't
Usually
know.
2 months.
Yeah, you don't know.
I think it's the difference. And I extended.
You don't know. Everybody understand what I'm saying?
That probably back years ago.
Okay, so, sorry, what's your question, then, Bill?
What's the
question is what's the purpose of the holdover clause?
What was the question?
Okay, so, all right, so the question now, what's the purpose of the holdover clause? Okay, so can somebody tell me, I know what it is, but somebody can tell me what the holdover clause is?
If someone shows the property.
those clauses all expired because your listing's expired. We have
No,
No,
it's interested parties. It's not parties that have actually a contract.
Yeah. If it's a new.
If the same buyer came and
Yeah.
buys a property after it's expired,
That time.
it's supposed to be qualified this year. Oh.
The holdover talk.
Can't hear what he's saying. Use the house.
So we hold over, so the way, okay, so we hold over clause. I have a listing, right? And then a buyer sees the property during my listing. Then my listing expires, and then that buyer goes behind my back and he buys the property privately. The holdover clause protects me. Unless there's a new listing by another agent, then your holdover clause disappears. Unless the second interest rate is less than the interest rate that you charge. And if you're, and if the commission is less on the second listing than what you had on your first listing, then the seller has to pay you the difference. So you take a 5% listing and you show the property to a buyer. Listing expires, somebody else lists the property at 3%, and then the same buyer goes in and buys that property. You can go after the seller for that 2% difference.
Right.
But if the second offer is also 5%, then the holdover clause disappears completely.
The same buyer?
Same buyer. And on commercial property is even different. On commercial property isn't so much, it isn't. I'm looking at a commercial person here. When you introduce a buyer to a property, you cannot just say to the seller, oh, I showed that buyer the property. No, you have to have it in writing to the commercial guy. Oh, by the way, I showed Mr. Smith this property. So it's an extra step you have to do on commercial.
So
In this case here, the first guy gets paid because the second guy canceled his listing. But if the second guy did not cancel his listing, then the seller's going to pay 2 commissions.
Why you have to cancel it?
You have to pay.
You got,
Yeah, giving them
What if
extension
in
on
the rare
finance.
cases you have two listings, the same property at the same time? Like, you know, they get into conflict.
open listing.
No, the plus guy.
So this, in this case, Liz, sorry, and the last question here, and I'll move on.
So whatever, client has an issue with the realtor and wants to cancel, they don't cancel and they just go and relist on somebody else anyways.
No. You can't have two listings for the same property. You can have a listing for rent and a listing for sale, but not two properties for the same thing.
But why, it's the second person who was solicited.
Yeah.
And you could have suspended it instead of canceling.
Correct. Yeah, I don't know why they canceled.
And he could have kept the things alive.
Well, there might have been some type of agreement when he took the listing that had those people come back and were able to close, then that he would cancel.
Yeah,
it.
but
That might have been an agreement that he did
If
that.
it's not in writing, it's no
It
agreement.
could be, it could be.
I think the courts will look pretty badly on the second guy if he went after him. Right. Okay, and then just into the stats themselves from 33, let's talk about September 22nd, last night. So we've got 25,800 listings, so they've actually gone up quite a bit. We started the month off, I think, less than 24,000, so we're up quite a bit at 25,800. 11,300 are condos, 14,500 are freehold. I like to watch this number here just for the heck of it, right? Of the 25,000 active listings, owner occupied were 48% overall. So 12,000 are owner occupied. If I split the condos freeholds of the 14,500 active freeholds, 8,200 are owner occupied, or 57%. So 57% of all listings on freehold are owner occupied. Okay. On the condominium side, there's 11,380, 4,200 are occupied, or 37%. So 37% of condominiums are occupied. Now, when I do condos, by the way, on here, I check all condos, freeholds, condominiums, everything, right? So, but I break it down to condo apartments, because condo apartments, when the papers talk about the condo market not doing this and not doing, they're talking about apartments mostly. So I break it down to condominiums, apartments. We have active as 8,900 and owner occupied 3,000, so 34%. So it's almost the same number. So 34% of the condominium apartments are owner occupied, the rest are not. On the freehold side, 61% of freeholds are owner occupied. And that comes into what we're talking about, right? We're talking about how a lot of investors bought properties that they're trying to sell. A lot of inventory came into the market from new construction that just closed, so that's coming to market. So that's going on as well. Yeah, that's it. On the sales themselves for the first 22 days are about 3,300. They're minus 2%. Overall, condos are minus 5%. Freeholds are about the same. And condo apartments are down about 4%. So even though the newspaper's talking about how doom and gloom and all these guys are 30 years and 10-year averages and 72%, that's all brand new stuff. Resale stuff is not as bad, and actually sales are up 5%, they're down 5% from last year. So that's okay. I think we can deal with that. Still in the 5,000 range. The sales will probably still be less than 5,000, which isn't booming at all, but you know, it's something. Good. Next week, Wednesday, we have a couple of things. Save the date. So we're starting that session. Back to school. I know Caitlin's doing it. It's quite a long system. So I'd like you to at least plan for Wednesdays, not this Wednesday. The girls are in Ottawa this week, but next week there will be a session. It'll be here. Caitlin's going to be doing it live. As I said before, it's a session that people pay for outside this office, but she's doing it for us just because we're all part of the team. I've said this before, where if somebody comes from, if I said to you, I've got a guy coming from California to talk about how to sell real estate and how to be systemized and how to be organized, and or else you pay him a couple $100 or whatever it is and go to his course and think he's great. But because it's somebody local or because it's somebody you know, you don't take the same, it's not the same thing, right? But if Caitlin went to California, they'd pay her to do it. It's weird. So get that out of your head. I think it's good for you. I think it'd be good for you just to get motivated. It's good for the fall market. The fall market is coming. We are there, so you've got to be organized in where you go. It's gonna be for 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's 6 weeks. And they're only an hour long, right? But it's an hour long, but she's gonna give you 4 hours of homework. Right, so something you want to do next week. From Bruce Kelly's, okay. Good. New construction, is anybody doing reconstruction? Because I know that Cornell, South Cornell, that Linvest has another project. I know a lot of people bought Linvest when it came around a couple times there. They sold some pretty cheap stuff there. They did okay. There's one going on there, and there's also going on in Whitby, a thing called Garden Square. And that's gonna be urban towns in downtown Whitby, so they're coming up. Gonna be doing pre-con?
Fine.
Trying. We talked about last week, or Chris here talked about investors, investing being something you should do as a realtor. I think there's a great opportunity. What do you say? Buy in the dip? Buy in the dip? Would you consider us being in the dip? Because if you got some money, you want to try to make some more, right? I would look at those assignment things and see who's giving away properties. I think guys are walking away from their 20% down. And they're saying, somebody's take over the contract and you can have my deposit. So if you got people that are thinking about investing and whatever else, and they want to try to take advantage of something like that, I think there's lots of them out there. I'm not well, there's an opportunity, all I'm saying here now. So if a guy is bought at, I don't know, $1,200, $1,300 a square foot, and today it's going for $1,100 a square foot, so you might be able to say $200 a square foot, but it probably still only worth $1,100. Just because you buy it at $1,100 and he paid 13, it's still worth $1,100. So they're not getting a bargain. But at the same time, some guy lost $100,000 on that same property. I'm not sure if he can work it out or not. That makes sense.
Doesn't make any much sense.
I don't know. You have to, unless you want to be end user, right? I guess not so much a investor, but end user. You get cheaper units there.
Person bought it 3 years ago with a $900 or $1,000 4 years. That would be much better.
Yeah, the guys that bought 4 years ago, guys that bought 6 years ago are okay. The guys that bought 3 or 4 years ago, I don't know. They're the ones that are coming up now. Does anybody have clients like that they're in situations? And the Canadians are funny, right? We will not lose money. It's not like the stock market. If you like the stock market, you lose money in the stock market. You heard, has anybody told you you've lost money in the stock market because you sold stock for a loss, right? Canadians, man, we got one here where the person they wanted to close, they couldn't close, didn't appraise, went and got a second mortgage just because they didn't want to not foreclose on the first one. So now they're in trouble in the second mortgage, and it's just they owe so much money, they should have just walked away from the beginning.
And you walk away from the.
What are you gonna do? I mean, if you don't have the money, you don't have the money. I mean, what during pandemic, board said to the renters, if you can't afford to pay the rent, don't pay rent, meaning don't pay rent because you can afford it, but you can't afford it. So if you can't close on a condominium, don't close. I don't know, what else would you do? We're still on to everybody for your transaction reports. We're getting a little stickler on that. We're getting a little tough on that. A lot of people sort of, give us bits and pieces, but we still need those transaction reports. Because we're doing EFTs and that, it's so difficult. It used to be before, if you wrote a physical paper check, we could write you a check and say, oh, by the way, I forgot, I'm gonna give my client, it's gonna pay for my client's something or other. So can you knock $1,000 off? Meanwhile, we've already done the EFT. It's already gone. Everything's all gone. It was on the transaction report. And it costs more than $1,000 to reverse. So basically, if you find the girl's a little bit harder and you're saying, look, we need the transaction report, there's reasons for it. Just to try to save time overall. So just tells what's going on. Good. Anybody want to talk about any properties? No. Anybody else? No. All right. Okay. So we're done. We're all done here. I'll turn off the speaker and you guys can talk all you want. All right. See you.